In this video, I'm going to talk about why women are only attracted to men who manipulate them. And I know this sounds like some kind of dark wizard, red pill, messed up kind of video, but it's actually a good thing to be able to manipulate women in a certain way. And most men have been raised, they've been taught, they've been indoctrinated by modern society to think that the way you should behave is a way that doesn't manipulate women, but also bores them, doesn't excite them, and prevents them from feeling any type of sexual arousal towards you. And when you learn how to drop that programming, your dating results will completely change. Now, just so you know, I'm not someone who makes random videos talking about dating advice, yet I, live in a basement playing video games 10 hours a day and have never approached a girl or gotten laid in my life. I'm gonna show you a quick compilation of myself approaching girls, making out, taking them home, so you know that I'm someone who is not like those dorks.
Don't mean to interrupt, but you're hot?
This is my friend, by the way.
Come home with me. No, he's not. Come home with me. And now you just have to take my virginity.
Okay.
Shall we go smoke?
Yeah.
Stash of weed? 10 minutes away?
Definitely.
This way?
Yeah.
Instead of standing here like 8 hours? Let's go.
Yeah, I'm done.
And some Cards Against Humanity.
Yes.
You're a pig.
No, I'm a virgin.
That has no correlation to being a pig.
How could you possibly be a virgin pig?
Who are
The
you?
rooms are like tiny little buttons, like supposed to be like all like loose.
That's so mean. Oink, oink.
All right, well,
If I'm a pig, I'm a teacup pig.
I like him. I like the vibes.
Thank you.
You guys should definitely come have a drink with us. It's her last night in town.
I know.
It's like, what, a block away?
It's only 2 blocks.
Yeah, let's get a quick drink.
I said thank you. Yeah.
Like a business.
I was like so
A
looking
lot of
forward
these
to it,
like,
and then
I'm just an
womp,
artist.
womp,
It's different.
womp. See, there's more like little faces.
But she told me to give up, never
I
try,
painted that.
not gonna work. But if anything, that kind of motivated me more. So what do I mean by women like manipulation? I want you to see it this way. What is makeup? What are high heels? What are hair extensions? They're all manipulation. These are things that almost every woman does to manipulate men. Now, we don't mind it because it also benefits us. It makes them more sexually attractive. So manipulation is seen as this bad thing, and in many cases it can be. If you're trying to manipulate someone to do something that's going to hurt them, like trying to convince someone to do a drug, yeah, that's a bad thing. But we are intentionally trying to have a certain impact all the time in all areas of life. That's just part of life, and learning how to do it effectively as opposed to in a way that is random and ineffective is very important. Because when a woman wears makeup that looks really good and she wears high heels that accentuate her figure, yeah, she's in a sense tricking us. That's not actually what she looks like in a certain sense, right? But are you going to complain about that? Are you upset looking at her and being turned on? And so the same applies to your behavior. Most men, what they do is think about, how can I be very polite, very respectful, very nice, not sexual at all. Trying to, add feelings of sexual, that's creepy. That's toxic masculinity. Don't do that, right? No. Bad, right? That is something women hate. Being dominant, taking the lead. Well, that's not very feminist. It's not very feminist to take the lead and make the first move. You should learn to wait for a woman to make it, to kiss you first. She needs to make it so obvious, give you like 5,000 green lights, and then you can finally make the move. And I was, a great example of this. The first time that I ended up in my bed with a girl who happened to be very attractive, I told myself, because of the programming, that I will make a move and try to hook up with her if she makes out with me first. Then I know for certain that she likes me, right? That was my mentality. That was my mindset. And of course, what ended up happening is we massaged each other. She never went in to make out, and then I never saw her again. And she pat me on the back condescendingly. I was like, that's not what I was expecting. Basically thinking this guy's not really a man,
right? This guy is neutered. And that is the majority of men today. And that is the manipulation that I am talking about. It is a type of manipulation where you are intentionally creating tension, sexual tension. You are willing to disagree. You are willing to tease. You are willing to be physical and take risks that might lead to a rejection, right? The only way to know what the boundaries are is to test them. And if you don't test them at all, things aren't going to move forward. So what I'm saying when I talk about manipulation, I'm saying that women want to be influenced. You're either at the cause or you're at the effect in any interaction, in any social interaction. One person is reacting more than the other person. And in terms of sexual polarity, it's about dominance and submission, right? Unless you're into, BDSM, dominatrixes or something like that, women want to be the one following your lead. That's why they almost never approach men. I've done the experiment. I had a guy stand out, a good-looking guy, by the way, stand in a club by himself for like 10 minutes. No one approached him. Like maybe a guy said something to him. That's it. And then I had a girl who was actually average, not even that good looking, do the same. Every 20 seconds, someone talks to her, right? That is the reality. Women are not going to make the first move, and that occasionally they do, and it's cool. I don't mind it, but it's not something you can rely on. So I'm talking about being the, as David Data calls it, penetrative force. I'm talking about being manipulative in the sense that you are intentionally making things sexual in nature, that you're intentionally making her feel sexual emotions, that you are willing to do that, right? You're intentionally, it's the same thing as like wearing makeup for women, right? They're making themselves more sexually attractive. And they'll say, oh, I do it for myself. I just look pretty for myself. Sure you do, bitch. Then why don't you ever do it when you're at home alone? But anyway, what you need to do is be the kind of person that is intentionally creating a spark in the interaction, that is intentionally taking risks that make it sexual. And we're afraid to do this partly because of, it's creepy, toxic masculinity, and partly because any of these things you do, she might not respond well to. There's always that risk in the back of your mind. And I'll give some examples of what I mean that you can do that would be manipulative, but in a positive way, in a way that it makes her feel good too, right? If there's any reciprocity, it's gonna make her feel good too. When she's having sex with you, she's gonna feel great that you did things that enabled that to happen, right? Unless you're really bad in bed, but that's a whole other topic. So, for example, holding piercing eye contact, and not just like staring, but when you look at her, really looking into her eyes, right? It should almost feel like you're looking into her soul, as cheesy as that might sound. But looking at her and thinking, I want you, thinking you're sexy, thinking about her naked, thinking thoughts that cause you to feel turned on. And by getting yourself to feel that, emotions through mirror neurons and through the law of state transference, they transfer from you to her. And to be fair, yes, if she finds you absolutely repulsive and there's no chance she would ever sleep with you, is it going to turn her on then? Well, she's gonna have a wall towards it, right? But then you're at least finding out and you can move on, right? Because then you realize she's not opening up, she's closed off to it, and then you can move on to a girl who is open to something, right? So that's an example. Strong eye contact. Another one that you could call manipulative is seating the pool. So seating the pole is based on something in psychology called commitment and consistency, which is that when someone makes a conscious commitment to do something, they're far more likely to follow through with it later. Now, there's a couple ways you can use this in regards to picking up women. The first is you can use commitment and consistency by mentioning the idea of something you want to do with a girl later. So I have a video where I just mentioned the idea of watching Mad Men. That's the classic Netflix and chill. Right? We start talking about TV, and then I mention that specific show, that we should watch it later, and then towards the end of the interaction, I say, hey, do you want to go watch that show we talked about? Here.
What?
Would you like to watch an episode of Mad Men?
Now?
Yeah. You have about an hour. I'm like 50 feet away.
50 feet away, we watch Mad Men, but we are gonna have sex.
I don't know about that. Probably gonna make out.
It's a great show. I don't want you to miss out.
10:22. I have time.
It's this way.
It's not super subtle, but the fact that she agreed to it earlier makes it more likely to happen later. It makes it feel a lot smoother as opposed to jarring and like this huge decision, right? So you can do that with, I've done many times, like we should play Cards Against Humanity later if I'm with a group. If it's just me, I have a foosball table, so we should play foosball later. You can have hookah, weed, drinks, especially if you get some kind of like a nice wine or some kind of unique drink like Angry Orchards, which is just a beer that tastes really good. You can say, oh, have you ever had that? And we should drink some later. She says, okay, yeah, that sounds cool. And now the seed's been planted, right? Like the movie Inception. So that's another thing. Technically, you could say it's manipulative, but it's making it easier for her to say yes in a way that's comfortable, right? It makes it less awkward for both of you. So it's not a win-lose or something, it's actually benefiting both of you. In many cases, being manipulative, so-called, is a good thing. It's only a bad thing when you're doing it knowing, like if you're pretending you want a relationship when you only want a one-night stand, right? That is deceptive, right? That's the bad kind of manipulation. Another example of how you can use this is whenever you get a girl's number, instead of just saying, oh, we should get a drink sometime, or we should get coffee sometime, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But now you have to put in a lot of effort over text, right? Now you're going to have to start up a whole conversation where you mention the idea, you get her to agree to it, and there's several added steps that add more friction, that make it more likely that she's going to flake. So a very simple thing you can do is, after you mention, oh, we should get a drink sometime this week, then say, when are you free? Right? What day are you free this week? And if she says, oh, I don't know, then you can try saying, oh, how about Tuesday? And if she's still like, oh, maybe, then you know there's a good chance that she was gonna flake anyway, so it's useful information, and now you just have to try over text. But a lot of the time, especially if she's receptive, she's gonna say, oh yeah, I'm free 7 p.m. Tuesday, and then you say a specific location, right? The specific bar, the specific coffee shop, whatever that you're going to meet. And now over text, you have way less work to do. You don't have to think so much about text game. And then secondly, she's already made the agreement, right? She's made the agreement when she's actually feeling your vibe, when there's actually chemistry, when there's actually, you have more leverage because you're in person with her, as opposed to trying to convince someone over text, which gives her a lot less to go off. And so she's less likely to flake if you make the plans in person. Again, you could see that as manipulative, but it's not in a way that has any negative kind of effect. The underlying point of this video is that you have to be willing to do things that will get you what you want, as long as it's not in some way that's harmful or negative to others. But you have to be willing to be, a closer. You have to be willing to be a leader. You have to be willing to be dominant. And part of this is because women, like the number one sexual fantasy for women is BDSM, dominance and submission in simple terms, right? What's the number one book of the 2010s, other than the Bible probably? 50 Shades of Grey. Think about that. If you don't know, the whole topic of the book is a guy being hyper-dominant, right? Like putting her in handcuffs and, well, it goes way farther than that, but basically just being completely in control of the sexual nature of their relationship, right? And she's completely submissive. That energy, that polarity is what creates sexual tension, unless a woman, is very dominant, and that's, you got to watch a different type of video if you're going for those type of women. So you have to be willing to do that, and that means you have to be willing to take risks, you have to be willing to get rejected, but if you're not doing that, nothing's going to happen. There is no energy. If you're just being neutral, which means non-manipulative, right? You're not being dominant, you're not holding sexual eye contact, you're not moving things forward, you're not seating the bull. If you're doing that, then there's just no energy. It just fizzles out. You want there to be almost an electric charge between you and a woman that builds up more and more, because you're manipulating her in the sense that you're being dominant and taking the lead. Now, I don't mean being domineering, I don't mean being controlling and weird, I just mean being assertive, moving things forward, going for what you want, and being unfiltered, right? Not being someone who only says polite, respectful, agreeable things all the time. So that's the topic of this video. I hope you found it useful. And if you want to do a much deeper dive on how to manipulate women in a way that turns them on, in a way that leads to sex, that leads to relationships, that leads to the outcomes you want, I've written a 250 plus page book that delves very deep into that topic, as well as giving you a specific 12-week action plan for what steps to take to start getting the results with women that you want. And you can click the link below to learn more and get a copy.